Hey guys, welcome. Finally, episode 6 of.
I think,
yeah, it's episode 6 of the podcast PFEDU. We decided to bring on our newest performance specialist, Connor Hanson, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I didn't know if I was going to say that right now. Haven't used your last name yet.
Yeah, honestly.
So, I'm sure many of you saw him around the gym. I just wanted to give everybody an opportunity to kind of know him on more of a personal level, just like we've done with the rest of the staff that have been on here. This will really wrap up the rest of the staff being on the podcast, so now I'm going to have to go external and start to get additional guests.
It's the fun part.
Or who knows, maybe we'll start having more guests on.
True.
Because we'll have more staff. We'll have to see.
Yeah,
so, tell us a little bit about yourself, Connor. Like, what's your backstory?
Okay. Do you want my coaching backstory or just my life backstory?
Let's go coaching backstory,
Okay.
and then we'll see where it goes.
They're both kind of long.
Yeah.
Okay, so I went to the University of Dayton for my undergrad. Did it in exercise science. So I'm actually from Milwaukee originally, so that was like 6+ hours south for me. So that was a new change of scenery when I first got there. But did an exercise science, and then while I was in school, in school at Dayton, I interned with the men's basketball team there my junior year, I believe, and then the women's basketball team there my senior year. And then I also played football my sophomore year as a walk-on. So I got kind of experience in the weight room in all my sophomore through senior year at Dayton. And then in the summer going into junior year, I spent at St. Viator High School in the northern suburbs of Chicago. So I got to kind of get my feet wet and coach at a high school a little bit and kind of just get to really see what strength and conditioning was all about as an intern. And then my summer going to senior year, I spent at University of Minnesota with Olympic Sports, and that was a great opportunity to just get to see just the whole collegiate system work in general, because I'd only been with men's basketball prior to that college. And once I graduated Dayton, I decided to do my master's at University of Georgia, and there I interned full-time with Olympic Sports at University of Georgia and was brought on as a paid intern right away. And by the time Corona hit, I was programming for diving and coaching diving by myself, and then helping out with programming, coaching for women's soccer, track and field, and women's golf. So
Nice.
yeah.
Now you're a ProForce.
And now I'm at ProForce. So Corona hit, I moved back up to Cleveland with my parents. So moved back in with my parents. It's a fun time, and decided to take a chance on myself and just moved on to Cincinnati and see what could happen. So
That kind of worked out for you.
gladly landed on my feet thanks to this guy.
So, for those of you who don't know, Connor showed up as an intern, and then 1 week into his internship, it was pretty apparently clear that we were going to stay busy, and we had just lost a coach because of COVID. So you were a nice, quick transition for us from that end, which helped out. So why did you go to Dayton coming from Minnesota?
So technically I was
Wisconsin, sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
I've been in Minnesota. I've been all over the place recently. But I was technically a pawn in my dad's chess game a little bit. He had a meeting. He works at Tremco, which is up in Cleveland. So he had a meeting there, and he was trying to make a business trip. So we were like, all right, we're going to show Connor a bunch of colleges in Ohio. So I saw Dayton, saw Miami, saw John Carroll and Case Western up in Cleveland. And I just loved Dayton just from the start. I was looking for a smaller D1 school. I wasn't really set on going to D3 because my brother went to a D3 school in St. Thomas, or in Minnesota. It's called St. Thomas. So it's kind of between that and just a smaller D1 school. And I really wanted to play football, and I wasn't good enough. I was a bench warmer my junior and senior year. So if I wanted to play football, I was going to go to St. Thomas and play D3, or I was like, all right, I'm going to go to a big school and just kind of challenge myself because I didn't know anybody in Dayton.
Right.
I was the only person in my class to go to Dayton. My brother would have been at St. Thomas while I was there. So I kind of just almost took a bet on myself, wanted to get a new change of scenery and kind of just see what I was capable of. And Dayton seemed like the right fit to me. I remember I was talking to my high school athletic trainer, and she was helping me find just schools that fit the exercise science, strength and conditioning side that I wanted. And Dayton was a NSCA approved school, so it kind of just worked perfectly for me.
So what interests you, what sparked your interest in kind of extra science, being a strength coach, being a coach, versus all the other fields that you could go into?
Yeah, of course. So, obviously you guys can't see because I'm sitting down, but I'm a pretty short dude. I'm only 5'6". So I was always kind of had an uphill battle, especially playing football, and I loved basketball or track. My stride length was just never huge, so I always just loved the training aspect of each sport. So I would do like speed and agility camps, Monday through Friday. In the summer, I'd lift Monday through Thursday. I was always in the weight room or just working out or helping other people, helping the freshmen if I was a senior. Like, all right, hey, this is how you back squat, this is how you do this. So I was kind of thrown into that role just on a whim a little bit, just through my high school career. Mm-hmm. But I always loved helping people. That was like my biggest thing. And I was a captain for my track and football teams. I was always like a leader, loved helping people. I loved sports and I loved like working out. And I was just like trying to figure out the best way to blend, all three of these things. And kind of strength and conditioning kind of just popped in my head. And I was like, that would be a cool role to be in because I just love being on my feet. I don't want to be behind a computer, working a typical 9 to 5. I want to do something that can be a collection of all my passions that I can just mm-hmm. really love and just take however far I want to go with it.
So I think you've already kind of hit on it a little bit, but one of the common themes that I've been asking all the coaches, and I know you haven't had the opportunity, you just found out we had a podcast like a few hours ago.
Yeah, it's bad.
So what is a hurdle you've had to overcome, whether it be an injury, or I know you mentioned your size, or what adversity or hurdle have you had to overcome in your sports career, that sharing that story and kind of how you overcame it might help somebody that's listening to this?
Yeah, so luckily I've never really had like a serious injury, knock on wood.
Lucky for you.
Yeah, so I don't have that aspect of being a strength coach. I know a lot of people get in that field or like PT because of injury. But yeah, besides my height, I didn't really face any difficulties. But I guess like the biggest thing is, since I was a walk-on at Dayton, my junior and senior year, I was looked up as this leader, especially my senior year. But I was always stuck behind other people. Like I was never like a starter, never really got any playing time. So my senior year, I maybe played a handful of, actually impactful snaps. And it was kind of just, otherwise I was playing special teams, trying to do my best on that. Otherwise just being a leader during practice. So I never really got, I got a chance to really prove myself playing football. So that was always kind of a downside to me, and especially when I picked Dayton. I was like, all right, my football career is done. Like, I'm not going to play football again. It's a D1 university. Yes, it's FCS. People make that argument all the time. But it's still a D1 university. And I was like, there's no shot I'm going to play football. And halfway through my freshman year, one of my floor mates was on the football team, and I kept joking about, like, trying out the next year. And then I asked him, I was like, hey, you think I can actually do it? He's like, yeah. Like, why not? And so I just emailed the head coach. I've been talking to him anyways because I was a sports writer at the time. And I was like, hey, I'd like to try out. And at this time, I was probably like 5'6", 140 pounds, soaking wet. I was a tiny dude. And from there on, I just kept, from basically March all the way until August, I just put my nose down and just nose to the grindstone, just worked hard as possible. Because I don't really think anybody outside of maybe my brother and my dad, they didn't think I was going to, make or play for a D1 university. I was basically the only person that really believed that I could do it. Mm-hmm. So it was a big thing for me, just trying to speak it into existence, almost like make myself believe that I was going to play for this university. And then August rolled around, and I went to tryouts, and it was me and 4 other guys, and I just went as hard as I could for them. And 3 days later, I'm going upstairs, going to the coach's office, and he's like, hey, we're bringing you on the team. We're putting out your wide receiver. I never played wide receiver before. It's like, well, we're excited to have you on this team. Like, let's figure everything out, get you to practice next week. And from there on, just kept climbing, and that's kind of how I've gone about my life since then. Just like, hey, maybe this isn't attainable, but I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do everything I can to get myself in the best position possible for it, and we'll see what happens. So I was really happy I had that opportunity.
Nice. So there you go. Don't quit. Yep. A common theme he's brought up is betting on yourself. Like, I think you've seen it probably multiple times being in athletics. It's like, it's not carrying yourself with the cockiness and the attitude, because I think you can take that too far.
Yeah.
But having the wherewithal to know that I am going to do my very best and I know I can do this, versus somebody who gets up to the line and immediately knows they're going to fail.
Yeah.
It's the psychology of it, and It's knowing that I can do this versus I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people out there need to have that mind shift. And that's why yesterday I shared a quote. And who knows when you watch this, but I shared a quote, and I really liked it. It was like creating the best version of your own like story, right?
Yeah.
Starts with understanding that you are the author, right? So it's like, if you want to live your best life, like, you have to go ahead and put everything aside and realize you're the author of this novel.
Mm-hmm.
No one else is writing this.
Yeah.
And I think far too often people put too much weight in other people's, and they think other people have to carry them to the promised land. And that's where you see a lot of situations where, how many times have you seen it where you see a kid, you're like, God, this kid is so talented, and then a few years later, you're like, God, I can't believe you just pissed that talent away. Right? How many times have you seen that in a kid? So bet on yourself. Understand that you're your own author. Write your story and bet on yourself and go all in on what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
It was some scary shit when I bet on myself and went all in on this.
True. Yeah. Can't imagine.
I got a child, left my dream job. My wife left a great job. We left our house that we built and moved in with my parents, and then moved into a really crappy condo for a while, and then we bet on it. And it's funny that you bring that up, because the best piece of advice, a few years ago I had this kind of waver where it's like, I don't know what I want to do. Like, this was growing, but it wasn't where I didn't know where it was going to go. And I had this wavering moment, and I met with Lauren Landau, who is the Broncos strength coach. He runs Landau Performance out there in Denver. Mm-hmm. One of the greatest men I've ever sat down with. And in 15-minute conversation, we really hit it off. And he left the conversation. He just kept telling me, bet on yourself. Bet on yourself. And that made me go 100% all in again and just grind. Mm-hmm. And gotta hate that word, grind, but there's no other word for it. I mean,
honestly, yeah.
As you know, coming from the college setting to the private setting, where I've had to ask you to take lunch breaks because you're not used to it. Right?
Yeah.
You can take a lunch break. You can take a break in the middle of the day. You don't have to coach for 8 hours straight. Mm-hmm. So coming fresh from a college setting, okay, for a lot of people that might be listening this to, that don't have any context of what the difference is between a private sector and a collegiate setting, because I know I've been told from a few people where, like, our interns who go off and they get college jobs and they go into the college setting, they've kind of commended to us because when they go and see other private facilities, like, wait, like, ProForce actually runs a lot like a college setting, mm-hmm. in a way. Now, everybody has their own program, so it's not. But in the structure context, I think we run a very tight ship. Mm-hmm. But what would you kind of say is the big, like, difference between the college setting versus the private setting, since you've just made that shift?
Yeah, so I think it depends on what colleges you go to. So, like, obviously, if you're at a big D1 university, there's a lot more money doled out to that staff,
right?
So it's going to be bigger naturally. But I think everything's a lot more separated. Like, we kind of all ebb and flow together. Like, groups kind of, like, run together. Like, everyone kind of shares, like, the space. Where, you know, at Georgia, we might have 3 teams in at one time, and they're all separated. Like, one's on one side of the weight room, one's on the other, and, like, one's by the dumbbells. And, like, you're staying to that rack. You're staying in that confined area. You're working alongside of it. So it's kind of interesting that way. And usually, you know, obviously everyone's kind of so sport specific. Like, you have your strength coach who's specifically basketball and maybe volleyball, or like another coach who's soccer and swimming. Like, they're so specific in like 1 or 2 areas. Whereas you get here and it's like, okay, this group might have a soccer player, a baseball player, a softball player, basketball, and maybe a football player, and they might be college through middle school, you know, or college through high school, I guess. So it's a lot more variables up in the air there. And yeah, I guess you kind of, like, as an intern too, like, you're just expected to, you know, be doing everything as well. It's like, all right, like, hey, you're going to set up for this team, help coach this team. Once this team ends, you're going to hop on with this. Whereas, you know, as a coach or intern here, it's like, okay, like, hey, you're going to help out with this person. Like, once this group finishes, you can take a little break. You can kind of, like, work on something here. And then once this next group starts, you'll help out there, which is kind of nice. But, yeah, and I guess I haven't seen it, like, work in the fall yet. So I still have to see the other side of ProForce, or the private side. But yeah, otherwise, it's like when they come in, like, you're doing your warm-up with athletes, unless they came from practice. Otherwise, you're not really doing a warm-up. You're hitting your lift, and then if they're off-season, you're doing your conditioning. So just kind of like how we run it, and you have your progressions through it and everything.
Right.
So it's kind of nice that way.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing that I like to see in our coaches, and I think that gets lost in translation a lot. And I think the industry has kind of shifted a little bit recently, to where it was, you're either in the public sector, right? You're in a college, you're in a pro sports team, or you're in a private sector.
Yeah.
And it was, because I remember very clearly, like, when I left the college game, it was like, well, good luck getting back in, because you left. But now I think there's a lot more understanding of, okay, the guys in the private sector that are doing well, right? We have a clear-cut understanding of speed and agility.
Yes.
Which isn't often found in the college game, because they have so many other responsibilities. And like you said, you have to run through 6, 7, 8 teams, like with their lift. It's hard to be out there on the field. Like, you can't make a session in a college game where it's, okay, we're going to start with 15, 20 minutes of speed.
Yeah.
Right? Then we're going to move to the weight room. We're going to go through our lift. Like, that's rare in a college setting to be able to do that. It's pretty much like you have to set your time aside. Like, okay, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, this team's here. I'm doing turf time on Tuesdays and Thursdays for speed. Yeah. It's a lot more planned out.
Especially if you get it in season with the team.
Right.
It's like, good luck, because, like, hey, they might be coming before practice, might come after practice. Like, it might be like you'll find out the day before, basically. So it can get pretty sporadic.
But what I really like is seeing somebody like you come from the college game, and then you have the middle school athlete. Because there's a lot of teaching to be done, and there's some raw athletes in college, 100%. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But I've said it time and time again, like, give me the coach that can coach a middle school athlete and cue them perfectly through some stuff. Because to me, you're building the engine. I know we've talked about this before. Like, with that group and with the junior group, you're building engines. Like, you don't even have the framework of the car yet. Like, you're just building the engine. Where a lot of times at a D1 university, like, you're just kind of changing out tires, rotating tires, changing the oil. Maybe you might need a belt replaced in the engine, but
fine-tuning.
It's more fine-tuning, right? Where with a middle school athlete or junior athlete, even a high school kid, right? You're looking at it as, Mike Boyle says it best, you get a 20-year window effect on somebody, right? So if I do everything correctly from a coaching perspective, I have this 20-year window of effect possibly on somebody if I do my job right. And that's why I really prefer so far the private setting, because I have more 20-year windows with people, where my 20-year window with a college kid might be, okay, we get him through freshman to senior year, and then what, right? So it's I like this side because I can have kids where you can see them, and it's really cool when you can get the ones in middle school and you can kind of go in the back of your head like, I'm going to earmark him because I think he's got a shot. Yeah. And then you can see him kind of grow, and you're like, okay, he's on track. Like, let's see where this goes. And then you have a kid like our ones that have been drafted, that have been with us since 8th grade, like a middle schooler to pro. So cool. Like, that's cool. Like, that's, you talk about a window effect. Like, we've had an effect on those kids. And as we're in this longer and longer, hopefully we have more and more of those, and I think that'll be really cool. Yeah, but that's why I prefer this side versus the other. And I know I've told people recently, like, my retirement game might be to just try to get into like Major League Baseball. Like, that might be my side job eventually, especially since we just saw Cressy make that segue to the Yankees. That might be my end goal. Once the boys are off in the college, they're out of the house, then we'll take the baseball route, but we'll see what happens. All right, so what is a fun fact people might not know about you? Besides, we already learned you played football for Dayton. and we all know you're a good ultimate frisbee player. What else? What's something that people don't know about you?
I'm an award-winning sports journalist.
What award did you win?
I won the Catholic Press Association. So I was a sports editor at Dayton my senior year. Catholic Press Association Single Sports Story of the Year. So
what was the story?
I did a piece on David Leistring, who is Dayton's, I believe he's a strong safety. So he was my year 2 years ago, and he was up for like a major award. He's the only FCS guy up for the award, and it was like I think top 20, and he was up for the award. So I basically just wrote a piece on him on like how he's become the player he is today, how he's a leader on Dayton's team, and why he's like should win this award basically. And we sent it in, and along with like a bunch of other stories and like our newspaper overall, and I won that. And then our newspaper as a whole, so Flyer News, won like the best like student journalism organization of the year too. So pretty cool.
There you go.
Yeah.
Connor, man of many talents.
Yes, sir.
I would have been impressed if you would have said it was like a bigger award.
What do you mean? How much bigger can you get?
So yeah, feel free to introduce yourself to Connor if you have not. I know there's probably some of you out there who haven't been in the facility yet, but he'll be around.
Yep.
So thank you for coming on the podcast.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
He made it clear this is his second podcast, so he's getting famous, folks. So
big moves.
Big moves. We did not pay him for this appearance, so.
Technically, I'm still on the clock.
Well, technically, you are still on the clock. So I guess you did pay him for his appearance. So I guess he's a big deal. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this episode. I will try to do a better job of doing more of these, and we'll get something out to you guys soon.
And make sure to do the challenge of the week.
Well, do you want to explain that real quick?
Oh yeah,
okay, we're gonna come back real quick.
Reel back in.
So, Connor's been begging me since he started to have this challenge of the week. So I challenged him to his challenge to come up with 52 different challenges, because I said if we're doing this, we're all in. We need 52 challenges. So he has officially come up with 52 challenges. So now that if you haven't been in the facility recently, like the vertical jump board is now on the television.
Mm-hmm.
Which looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
Shout out to my wife for making that happen.
Definitely.
And the old vertical jump board is now the challenge of the week board. So not everybody has to do it, but if you're game and you want to win some challenges, then Connor is going to have a different challenge every week up on that board, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, something new, something fun to get everyone a little competitiveness in the ProForce gym again. But yeah, just have fun with it. We'll probably try to figure out a point system so you can win something at the end of the year. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see.
That's a good idea. We'll have a point system, and then at the end of the year, we'll make like we'll have to. I don't even think you're weighted. I think it's just the amount of challenges. It's like obviously the max points would be 52.
Yeah.
And then we'll set up some prizes based off your challenge participation. Yeah. I like that idea.
Just get a little competitive juices
Just
going.
Came up with that right now.
Yeah. You just watched it unfold right here.
Yep. That's how it works, folks. With that, we bid you goodbye.
Perfect timing.